All right, so today we're going to officially talk about volume. We've talked about it a little bit for the last couple of days, but today we're going to sort of talk about the official way to find volume. And we really only have to find volume of a rectangular prism. In the future, you'll do volumes of other things, but we are really only doing rectangular prisms and cubes. So those are really going to follow the same process. So we're finding volume. The word that's defined there is volume. And so you'll want to frame that in blue. So get your blue crayon or whatever you have and go ahead and color the frame of that blue. So we remember it's a definition. Okay, so it says volume is the number of cube units it takes to fill something. You can think of it as little cubes that it takes to fill it. That does get a little confusing though if you have something that's round, because it's not necessarily going to be filled with cubes, but it's the same idea. So you can think of it as cube units, and they're always labeled with a little number 3, like we talked about before. When we're talking area, it's a little number 2. When we're talking volume, it's a little number 3 next to it. Okay? Now, here is our little how-to. So go ahead and frame that in red. So grab yourself a red. And here's the how-to. Use the formula. Actually, let me do this quickly so you can focus. Okay, so here's the how-to. It says, use the formula length times width times height, or LWH. First, you write the formula, plug in the numbers, and solve, just like we did before. So really, we're not doing a whole lot that's new based on what we've already been doing. You have this example on there. So this is a rectangular prism, and it has 3 numbers, 5 centimeters, 3 centimeters, and 4 centimeters. Okay? So those represent the length, the width, and the height. And here's the good thing about this. You don't have to worry about which one is length, width, or height. You don't have to look at it and figure out which one is which, because it really depends on how something is labeled. So all you have to worry about, since we're multiplying them all together, is putting those 3 numbers down. So our formula looks like this. Write this with me. Volume equals, so V stands for volume, length times width times height. First step is to write the formula. Volume equals 3 times 4 times 5. Now, if you put that in a different order, that's fine. If you put 5 times 4 times 3, doesn't matter. But we got to multiply all 3 numbers together. What happens when we multiply 3 times 4 times 5? Johan?
You get 60.
60. Okay, so 3 times 4 times 5 is 60. And it is in centimeters. And instead of being squared, it's going to be a little number 3, or cubed. Okay, and one thing that somebody showed me a couple of years ago for people who have trouble remembering that volume is cubed, and this might help you. If you think of the letter V has 3 points. 1, 2, 3. So if you remember that it has 3 points, that can help you remember to use the number 3. That may help some of you. Okay, so before we proceed, remember that we're going to be multiplying, and we're going to be using fractions, decimals, and, well, not percents, but fractions and decimals. So I'm going to refresh your memory as to how to make these fractions improper. So 1 and 1/2. Who can remind us as to what to do? Cameron, tell us.
Wait, what to do?
How do we make it improper?
I forgot.
You forgot? Yeah. Okay, who remembers? Who remembers? Al?
Okay, so you do 2 times 1 plus, and then plus the
Oops, can't see that. Okay, yeah, you're right. Let me get a color we can see better.
It's 3.
All right, so we multiply here, and we add there. And then we go around the world. So we go just like this. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. That's our top number. How do we get the bottom number? Just bring it over. It stays the same. So 3 over 2. Okay? So 3 over 2 is 1 and 1/2 as an improper fraction. All right, so let's do 3 and 3/5. We multiply where? Which 2 numbers do we multiply? 5 and 3. and then we add another 3. So 3 times 5 is 15, plus 3 is 18. 18 over 5. We just bring the 5 over. One more. 5 3/4. We multiply which two numbers?
4 and 3.
Close. 4 and 5. Multiply 4 and 5 around the world, remember. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 3 is 23 over 4. Okay? Alright. So now we've made them all improper. That's just a refresher. Now when we're done with them, we have improper fractions, and we have to turn them back into mixed numbers. So let's refresh our memory how to do that. So we have 56 over 6. Who remembers what to do? Remy? Close. Bottom into the top. Divide the bottom into the top, because remember we never put the horse in the house. So the bottom number is the horse. So 6 into 56. 6 goes into 5 0 times. How many times does it go into 56? 8. How about 9? Is it going to go 9 times?
Yeah.
What's 6 times 9?
54.
54, right? It's going to go 9 times. So 9 times 6 is 54. Subtract. So we get 9, and remember how we wrote it. Around the world again, but a different way. 9 and 2 over 6. Right, 9 and 2 over 6, but 2 over 6 can be reduced to 9 and 1/3. So when we finish it, we have to go back. Oh gosh, I didn't realize that was so hard to read. Let's try a different color. Okay, 48 over 5. I'll do a different color. That's better, isn't it? 48 over 5. Divide 5 into 48. How many times does it go?
9 times.
Okay, sorry. How many times does 5 go into 48? 9. 5 times 9 is 45. Subtract, we get a 3. So we have 9 and 3 over 5. 9 and 3/5. Okay, and our last one, 31 over 2. So we divide 2 into 31. 2 goes into 3 one time. Subtract. 2 goes into 11 how many times? 5 times, good. That's 10, we're out of room. Minus 10, we got 1 left over. So we have 15 and 1/2. Okay? This is our other example that you have where we actually have some fractions on our problem. But it's still going to be worked the same way. So let me see if I write this in white if it's better. So volume, write this with me, okay? Equals length times width times height. And remember, it doesn't matter which one we call which. So volume equals 4 times 1/2 times 1 and 1/2. Okay, those are the numbers. All we did was plug the numbers in. Now that we've plugged them in, we've got to multiply them. But before we can multiply them, and we can multiply all three at the same time, but before we can do that, we have to make everything improper. So volume equals 4 over 1 times 1 over 2 times, what is 1 1/2 as an improper fraction? 3 over 2. Good, because we multiply here, add there, right? 3 over 2. And now we can just multiply straight across the top. 4 times 1 times 3 is what?
12.
12 over, what's 1 times 2 times 2?
4.
Good. So we have 12 over 4. Divide 4 into 12 and we get 3. So our answer is 3, but we're not finished because we haven't labeled it. I'm going to write it down here so you can see it. 3, and it's in centimeters, and they're squared, cubed, or plain? Cubed. We've got to put a little 3 because it's volume.